guest today is Mary Clavier. Becoming a mom was a time of deep transformation for Mary, a period where she felt like she lost her identity. Amid the challenges of new motherhood, she launched a product business selling postpartum mesh underwear, which eventually gave her the courage to leave a high stress corporate job that was impacting her health. When her family moved from the US to France in 2022, it marked another pivotal turning point, one that pushed Mary to fully reconnect with herself and redefine her path. Mary is a transformational catalyst who guides individuals and organizations through meaningful change with clarity, purpose, and alignment. An American living in France, she draws on 15 plus years of experience in Fortune 100 companies and nearly a decade as a business owner to support growth that's both strategic and deeply personal. Blending her background in engineering and systems thinking with a refined understanding of energy and mind-body connection, Mary helps professionals and entrepreneurs create lasting transformation from the inside out. She is the host of Find Yourself, Change Your Life, a podcast offering simple, actionable tools for navigating life's biggest transitions with greater self-trust and embodied awareness. I can't wait for you to hear Mary's story. Let's begin. Hi, Mary. Welcome to the Joy of Being You podcast. I'm so happy to have you here.
Hi, Ava. Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here too.
I would love to hear a little bit about your background and the challenges you faced in the past.
Sure. So there are plenty, but to start, I suppose I will say most of my journey started when I became a mom, and a lot of the process of recovering after birth, after the childbirth. And then from there, just seeing how my life changed and eventually starting a product business actually related to having children. I started selling postpartum mesh underwear for women after they had babies or after surgery at the hospital. And then that evolved to me eventually leaving corporate, which was another challenge, the decision of becoming a full-time entrepreneur. And from there, my family actually relocated from the US to France. So that was a whole other type of change and challenge. And I know you're very familiar with moves. So there's been a lot of different things that now looking back, I can see how they all kind of supported each other and built on each other in different ways. But they really, a lot of that started with having kids.
So it sounds like you feel like you went through three major transformations in your life. First is becoming a mother, and then choosing to leave corporate, and then after choosing to live in a different country.
Yeah, I would say so. Those are the biggest ones when I think about change and transformation and what it's done in my own life. Those are the biggest ones.
Yeah, I would love to dig a little bit deeper into all of those stories and hear what you were really going through, at each part of your life. So let's talk about the first transformation you mentioned, becoming a mother. What were you going through that time?
Yeah, so I have two girls. I have two daughters, and my first pregnancy, I didn't know anything because it was my first time around. The first pregnancy was a little challenging, just in terms of having to go get additional checkups and things like that. And then my first daughter was born. Actually, I had an emergency C-section. So she had some trouble with her heartbeat and the whole process. So they decided that actually it was safer to do an emergency C-section. And I was fine with that because I said, okay, whatever gets her out safely, whatever keeps us both safe, like at the end of the day, that's the goal here, right? So I wasn't feeling a particular way about that process. But then the recovery process for me, and also for her because she was in the NICU for a few days. So she needed some extra special care and some observation and things. So I didn't really even see her a lot the first couple days after she was born. And I just remember having so much pain in my body because I don't know, people talk about childbirth and they're like, yeah, it can be hard, but oh, it's so great, and oh, you'll love the baby, and all these things. And for me, my recovery was just, it was challenging. It was hard to walk the first day. I could barely get out of bed, and all of that kind of stuff. And so
Mhm.
I think I was more shocked than anything, and surprised by the whole process. And that's what, I don't know, jolted something within me that's like, okay, we're doing this, and it's something different than what I was thinking it would be, you know?
Mm. Mm. So it sounds like the experience traumatized you. Would that be the right word to
Yeah.
use?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. I had a lot to heal from that whole process, definitely.
Yeah. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that emotional part, what you were going through at that time?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of things that layer in on the motherhood journey. And so there's this whole piece of losing yourself in a way, but then sharing yourself with this new being. And I mean, it is pretty incredible when you think about it, like how you birthed new people into the world. What a gift. But the toll that it took for me at first, my daughter was born in the winter, and it was a particularly snowy and cold winter on the East Coast. And so I was inside a lot, and I was with her a lot inside. So my maternity leave felt kind of like, a lot of times I felt stuck with her. I remember waiting for my husband sometimes as soon as he would get home. I'm like, "Tag, you're it. Like, here you go. You take care of her now because I can't do it anymore." And it was just, so it was a process of, I felt like I lost myself in trying
Mhm.
to care for this other human. And so then since then, and I would say it's something that I've really, it continues in some ways, but very different now because she's 11 years old. Um, but it's something that I had to go back and find myself after that process.
Mm.
Yeah.
What was the most challenging thing about that?
The guilt, mom
Mm.
guilt is a real thing.
Mhm.
And I really believe society has a lot of expectations for
Mhm.
moms that they do it all. And you're sold this kind of dream or this reality, or I don't even know what to call it, where you can do everything and you can have the full-time job and you can take care of the kids and you can, y- be the perfect wife and mom and all these things. And
Mhm.
it's like, come on, that's not reality. And the expense you have to give up yourself in order to try to even achieve that, it breaks you. I personally don't feel it's sustainable for women. And it's, honestly, it's a way to really probably keep us down in a way, try to keep us striving for something that's not real instead of getting the support and the help that we need to be able to do it. Right. So I felt guilty a lot for wanting something else, for wanting a career in some way, and, for not wanting to be with my child 24/7. And I understand some people do want that, but that wasn't me.
Mhm.
And so there was a lot that I had to deal with, of coming to terms with that and saying that that's okay, that if I want other things in my life, along with and in addition to being a mom, that's also okay.
How did you come to terms with that? I do hear this a lot from other moms, by the way. And I am not a mom myself, so I've never had this experience. But I talk to moms, and when I was a trainer, I feel like my job was at that time to teach moms to turn their attention back to themselves a little bit
Hmm.
because all their energy went outside of them, and they were burned out and tired and stressed, and felt out of alignment. And they did talk a lot about the guilt, if they put a little bit of energy into themselves, that they felt guilty about it. So how did you get through this time? Did you have somebody helping you? Did you reach out for support? What worked for you?
Yeah, I mean, I had multiple things. My husband's always been a huge support. So he was really great with the process and making sure that I had time also for myself. I had a trainer to eventually, not in the beginning, but after my second daughter, I had a trainer to kind of find ways and have movement and exercise to get back to myself. Um, I also we had childcare some of the time, and my family lived close by, so within an hour. So I had support in that way too. So it was really like it was a mix of a lot of different things. And
Hmm.
I was, willing to take whatever support I could get in a way to just make the process easier for me.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Uh, what was the point during this transformation when you said something has to change? And I think that there is a point in everyone's lives when you go through something like this, when you say that, okay, I need to break from the norms that are out there and accepted.
Hmm.
And I need to start a journey and walk my own path. And this path might look completely different from the paths that other people walk or other women or other moms walk. But that's your path and that's your unique path. When was that point for you when you said, I need to break away from the norm? I need to break out of the expectations of what society puts on me and just own my journey and my life the way I want to.
So I don't think I had that type of point at that time in my life in specifically that way because, yeah, I had a lot of different things happening. But what I can share is that in the beginning, so I had this experience at the hospital, right? And I had the C-section, and one of my friends told me you'll get these underwear after. They're going to be super stretchy. They're going to help you with your recovery. You can't find them to buy. So make sure she told me steal them from the hospital because you won't find them anywhere and you'll need them. And so the nurses
Good
at
fun, by
my
the
hospital, yeah, yeah,
way.
yeah. The nurses at my hospital gave me extra. So I took home the extra. But I eventually ran out because they're very stretchy and they go over your incision area. So like over
Hmm.
all the bandages and all the stuff, right? They don't put pressure on the midsection. So I got home, I used them up, and then I still didn't feel comfortable. So I ended up cutting the side of my underwear. Okay. Like cutting the elastic band so that they could
Hmm.
feel comfortable over all the swelling and everything. So one of my times when I had a moment was when I got mad and frustrated at this because I said, why don't women have the support and supplies and materials that they need for recovery after having a child? Like that just does not make sense, right? Like
It doesn't. It's not like women just started to have children.
right,
Yeah.
right, exactly. So it started with that. So sometimes I really believe we can have those big moments of like, yes, we have this huge shift and we're ready for something different and we're willing to go a different way. For me at that time in my life, I don't think I was that sure of myself to have that experience, but I had this experience where I said, well, this isn't right and I want to do something about it. What would it look like if I try to bring this product to market? Why is it not for sale for women, right?
Mhm,
So it
mhm,
was really a process of like little by little, a lot of little steps. I had a background in manufacturing, so I kind of knew some of the steps with supply chain and looking at product samples and all of these types of things. I didn't know how to do it for my own product, but I had some experience there. And so I reached out and I started looking for suppliers that could potentially make it. And I looked at what would it take to make this into a business. And I was doing it on the side from my corporate job. And it was really just one small step at a time, trying to follow something that I felt passionately about and that
mhm,
excited me in a way. And I did have people ask me, why are you doing that? Why are you putting so much energy into that when you already have a full time job and you have a child? And then eventually had a
mhm,
second child,
mhm,
And so I did get those kinds of questions. But for me, it was more like I considered it a hobby of sorts. I was like, well,
mhm,
it's a project for me. I'm trying to see if it works. I really want to do it. So there we are. Um, and that's what kind of led me down that path. I just tried to follow each of those smaller steps,
mhm.
right?
But with that, you really owned your experience. You had an experience, and that just created this idea. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So Is that how you moved into the next transformation in your life when you left corporate?
So,
How did that come about?
yeah, so when I eventually left corporate, so I had been building the product business on the side, brief
Hmm.
transitions. It doesn't exist anymore because I moved to France and everything, but um I had been building it on the side, and my corporate job eventually became very stressful. I had to travel almost every week, every other week. At this point, I had two children. It was just unsustainable in a lot of ways. And so, and my product business was growing. And I thought, okay, well, what might it look like if I, you know, did this full time? It had been on my mind since I saw it growing. And then one day I woke up in the morning with an incredible amount of pain in my jaw, like my whole mouth. It felt like my teeth were going to fall out. If I tell you,
Mm.
I was, I got really scared. I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to have like implants or dentures or I don't know what, like something? Cause I was like,
Was
they
that
have to
from
be all falling
grinding
out.
or
It was from
yeah,
grinding. Yeah. So
yeah.
I went to the dent and I didn't know before that I had ever been grinding my teeth. So I went to the dentist. He said I was grinding. I got a mouth guard and all that stuff. And I just basically realized I'm like, okay, this is not it. Right. So that was one of the like stronger kind of points that you were mentioning before, I would say. And
Hmm.
my husband was actually the one that encouraged me. And he said, like, what are you doing this work for if it's not working for you? And if you're so stressed that it's impacting the rest of your life, like, what's the point? Right.
Hmm.
Um, so we had kind of made our plan from there. And I'm grateful, of course, that I had his support and that we could do this. And so then I eventually, within a few months of that happening to me, I gave my notice and left my job.
Oh wow. So that was a really, really quick decision for you.
I mean, it had been coming for a long time, probably like
Hmm.
over a year that I was
Oh, I
still
see.
because I was a few years in with the product business, but it didn't get to that tipping point until the travel ramped up at my corporate job and I had to be home for like 2 weeks at a clip, even over
Hmm.
the weekend. And it was just, you know, I didn't want to be doing that. And that was causing then some of the extra stress. Right. So,
Was it hard for you to make that switch?
oh, yeah. I mean, I was terrified. Of course. I was like, is this going to work? Can I do this? I don't know. But at the same time, I was like, well, it's costing me my health right now. So,
Mm.
what
Was that your driving force? You said that it's just not worth it.
Yeah, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to
Hmm.
be so stressed out and feeling so bad so often. That's not the kind of life I want to have, even though I didn't know exactly what I would want instead necessarily, but I knew it wasn't to be stressed out all the time, right? And I didn't
Hmm.
want to be away from home so much. So,
So you made that decision that you're done. You're going to do something different. What happened then? What happened next?
yeah, so then I had already been building the product business. It was already running. I was using a fulfillment center by that point. I wasn't hand packing anymore or anything. And I said, okay, I'm going to focus on this full time. So then I gave notice and I already had plenty to do with my time, right?
Hmm.
Because I was already running it on the side. So then I just shifted that work to be more during the day, during the week, that kind of thing. And I think the whole process of owning and running your own company really teaches you so much about yourself in a different way that, a corporate paycheck could never teach you, right?
What did you
About,
learn about yourself?
oh, lots of things. I mean, how I work best. I mean, I had to confront a lot of mindset issues and challenges and all of those things to say, like, am I, am I worth it? And am I an imposter? All those things come up: worthiness, imposter syndrome, comparison, all of those things. And so you have to see how you work through that. And if you let it keep you stuck, or if you keep going. So,
I'm interested to learn a little bit more about this. I have a corporate job while I do my side hustle and and the podcast, which I love. Um, so, um, but I had my own business for 10 years. And so I'm familiar with what you're saying. I would love to hear a little bit more about the challenges you had. How did you feel and how did you get yourself out of there?
I mean, I think I would say you really have to have a lot of self awareness and also a lot of grace and compassion with yourself, and just understand that, yeah, you're going to have bad days, especially women. Again, like, our hormones range and they change over the course of the month and all those things. Like, you're going to have times where you feel bad and like not wanting to do anything or low energy or something like that. And then you're going to have times where you feel great and everything in between. And so it's really understanding yourself, understanding how you work best, and understanding how to motivate yourself out of those situations, right? So it's like, okay, I can feel bad about comparing or thinking I'm not good enough for a few hours, for a day or two, but if the weeks drag on and it's stopping you from taking action, if it's preventing you from moving forward in any way, and I don't mean you have to push yourself, right? But like, you have to be able to get up and still try to do something. And if it's stopping you from doing that, then you have to look deeper and say, okay, well, why is this happening? What's going on here? What do I need to kind of heal within myself in a way, right? Um,
So having your own business turn into your healing journey as well. And
yeah, for
that's what
sure.
it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah,
You had
yeah.
to face a lot of challenges. And I guess my story comes in because I was doing everything by myself. It was all up to me, right? So
Yeah.
I couldn't point fingers at anyone. I don't know if it was a unique experience. Sounds like it wasn't.
I don't think it's unique, because I think anytime you're really doing something, one that you want to do, and that you're putting yourself out there in that way, there's a piece of you that it feels very personal too, right?
Very.
So then it's like, eventually you have to learn how to disconnect. Like, you are not your business, right? And so your worthiness is not in direct correlation to how successful you are.
Hmm.
But in the beginning, it all feels very tied together. And then you have to really look at, of course, like, you're birthing this thing and you feel passionately about it and you feel that it's very personal to you. And so, of course, it's going to bring up those things in you that were dormant and that are part of your own, yeah, healing journey, honestly.
Yeah. How did you get through this? So you did say that you became more self-aware and then you figured it out. But what did you figure out? What did you learn about yourself?
So I started really getting support in different ways. I started journaling. Well, by then I was exercising more regularly. I started taking care of myself in a different way,
Hmm.
right? Um, Meditation, walks, like spending more time in nature, those types of things over these last years, I would say. Um, so as I did those and I tried out different things to see what works for me, I am very much of the mind that different tools work for different people, right? So you have a
Hmm.
toolbox, you pick which ones you resonate with. And so I used those at different times to help me. Journaling was really one of my first ones, that I would just sit and write pages and pages. I used The Artist Way in the beginning, the Julia Cameron book and
Hmm.
workbook that she has. It's mainly for, I mean, she talks about it being for creatives or awakening your creativity again, right? And
Hmm.
so, I mean, I filled many copies of that book with just anything that was going on. And it was a way, it was an outlet for me to be able to release some of that. And then, of course, as I grew and as I evolved, I found different things. And um, I eventually discovered human design. So then I learned more about myself from that tool, and just all of these different things layered in together to support me.
So would you say that becoming more self-aware and understanding yourself just simply helped you to get through these challenges because then you knew the next step and you knew what you had to do next?
So I personally believe there's a bigger process for it. I think the self-awareness is the first step. I think
Mm-hmm.
the self-awareness helps you to get out of your mind. Yes, it helps you
Mm-hmm.
to get out of your mind. And then the next step is really connecting more with your body. That's a lot of work what I work on now. You probably feel similarly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Everything with the mind body connection, and then having that help you connect more to your higher self and spirit and all of those things. Um, so for me, yeah, it starts with the self. It starts with the self awareness, and then you choose how much deeper you go with it and where you go with it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, a lot of times self-awareness is really just a tool. It's not everything. I became extremely self-aware, but until I didn't learn how to direct my own thoughts and what I focused on and have more control over my body, my nervous system, I couldn't make major
Right.
changes in my life. So those three things, I guess, were really really important part of my transformation. And it sounds like you said self awareness, then really the connection to your body, which once again I feel like it's that nervous system part when you're really
Yeah.
connecting
Because
to seeing what's going on,
yeah,
um, to be able to create something else, something new. During the time when you switched from having a corporate job to having your own business and running your own business, what was the most valuable lesson learned?
say there's a lot of them. But the most valuable,
Share a couple.
okay. um, there's a, I would probably start again with the self and like taking care of yourself, whatever that looks like to you. Like that was one of my big lessons is like, especially when you become your business owner, your own business owner, no one's coming to save you, right? It's up to you and your decisions and everything. So for me, it was really like, how can I keep improving? How can I continue on my self growth journey? I've always been someone that likes to learn and likes to new challenges and all of that kind of stuff. So it was like, how can I do that in a way or create an environment that's supportive of doing that while keeping a business running and expanding myself, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, Another thing for me was creating community. That was a big one to have my own support and to meet others going through the same thing. So I created a community for mom business owners local to where I lived at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really to say, hey, like I'm juggling these things, motherhood, running a business, all of this. Am I crazy? Am I the only one doing this? And turns out I wasn't because I met a lot of other amazing women that were doing the same thing. So that was another big piece of it for me was having a support system.
Mm-hmm.
And it became really invaluable because it's an outlet for when things feel hard, right? You have other people to talk to. It's also a place where you can learn and ask questions and say, hey, I have this situation. Does anyone else know anything about this? Um, it's a place where you can celebrate and say, like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I did this new thing and I got invited to this conference or XYZ. And, you know, other people cheering for you, right? Because when you're on your own, you're on your own. So you kind of have to create all those scenarios for yourself in a way so
Yeah.
that you can feel like you're part of something
Something.
when
Yeah.
you're the one person.
Yeah. Yeah. You're the one person army. You do take care of everything and you're really by yourself with your problems. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I remember those days.
yeah, it's
They
quite
really get
something.
you ready. They really get you ready for real life. It's interesting because I hear it from people who haven't gone on their own yet, but they want to. And I feel like in general, people think that having your own business is easy and you make your own schedule and you do whatever you want. But for me, it was the complete opposite. And I think that I've talked about this in other podcast episodes. I mentioned it that just being a one person army and really taking care of every single part of a business is not it's not easy. And I personally could not disconnect from it, even on the weekends or when I went
Mhm,
on vacation. And
mhm.
it's just it's literally like my business was completely you talked about this. You said that it's almost your identity and it just you're one with it and it's hard to separate yourself from it.
Yep. Yeah.
So yeah, it has its own challenges. So then you said you had to face another big transformation, which was pretty recent for you, when you moved to France. Tell us a little bit more about that. And then after, when we heard that story, I kind of want to put all of this together, all of
Sure.
these transformations together and
Yeah. Yeah.
see what happened in the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah. So my family moved to France a little over 3 years ago. So we moved
Hmm.
from the US, and my husband.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah. My husband is French, actually. So, but he hadn't
Mhm.
lived in France since his university days. We met in Belgium, and then he moved to the US. So he had been away for quite some time, but he got a new job opportunity. And I had always figured that maybe one day we would move there. We used to go in the summers to see my in laws and his friends and family and everyone. But then this opportunity came up. And so we decided to say, okay, like, let's try it and see what happens. And so that was a big change for me because obviously going in the summer for like 4 weeks or 3 to 4 weeks or something is very different than living here full time.
For
And
sure.
so the whole integration, and I already spoke French, but I didn't really use it in my day to day life. My husband speaks French to the girls, but I wasn't really practicing in the US, right? So we came here and I work at home by myself, and the girls go to school, my husband goes to work. And so it was another process for me of looking more deeply to myself, but then also figuring out, how do I create community? How do I feel like home here, even though it's not fully home? Right. And so that was another humbling and challenging experience, right? To really move. So, which, I mean, from your experience, but to move somewhere different that is a completely different culture and different language and all these things, and then trying to also be a parent to my children and manage school things while not feeling like I'm great with the language, right? So
Mhm.
the beginning was really a lot for sure. For the first year, but I would say each year, like, it gets better and better, but it's definitely been a process.
What did you learn about yourself during this time?
Um, Lots of things. I learned how to I learned that I'm resilient and I can do hard things, and that even if something feels hard in a moment, it doesn't mean that it's always going to feel that hard,
Hmm.
right? And then I also learned to kind of shift and like try to really not have the expectations around certain things, but try to live in these kind of shorter milestones and celebrate. I mean, I celebrate things that seem really silly sometimes. Like, I would tell the girls, like, oh, it's mommy's first time driving to so and so place by herself, Isn't that great? I would say things like that because it was really, if I didn't do that to try to identify some of my progress, it would feel like I wasn't making any, right?
Hmm.
So, and I think it's really important to feel like you're making progress in some way, because if you don't, then the days that feel hard are like really hard and you think you're going nowhere.
Hmm. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, moving to a different country is challenging. It took me. I didn't. I didn't really speak English so well when I moved to the
Mm,
States. And I'm
okay.
not gonna say how long ago because it's been a long time. But I remember it took me about 3 years to start communicating. Like I felt like I was
Yeah.
young, but I felt like I was a child who just learned speaking the first time
Hmm.
and had to learn how to express myself, how to express my feelings, how to advocate for myself, how to stand up for myself, how to just take care of day-to-day things. And I do remember times when I was in the New York subway and I really wanted to understand what people were talking about. Now I don't, but
Yeah.
at that time, that was one of my goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do. It's almost like you're reborn. You really have to. It's a huge adjustment,
Yeah.
and your support system is not there, the people who are around you, your day-to-day life and routine. And if you want to make some crazy changes in your life, which is what I did when I moved to Los Angeles recently, I wanted to uproot myself, and I wanted to do this rebirthing process. um How did that feel for you? I mean, I've heard you talked about some of the challenges you had, but how did this uprooting and rebirthing feel? Did you want to do it? Are you glad you did it? Do you feel that you're more yourself now? H- what are you going through?
Hmm. Yeah. So I wanted to do it because I thought it would be good for us. And I always pictured that one day we probably could or would live in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very glad that we did it because I think it's been good for all of us in many different ways. When we moved, we had lived in a city before, and now we're more in the countryside. So there's a lot that came with that in terms of adjusting, especially for me. Um, France is not the most convenient country for like
Mm-hmm.
access to things, right? Like a lot of stores are closed on Sundays and restaurants are open 12 to 2 and then they open again at 7:30 to 9:30 or 10. Like you always need a reservation, like that kind of stuff. And at first some of those things felt really hard for me, but I'm still really glad that we did it and it helped me to see more about myself. I would say probably it was because we moved to the countryside, I have a lot more access to nature.
Mm-hmm.
And since I'm on my own, I I do take, and with the time zone of working with the US and everything, I do take time pretty much every morning to go on walks. So I
Mm-hmm.
go on walks. I only miss if it's like really pouring rain. And it has been really transformational for me. So I think a lot of things came online for me and I became more expansive in a different way just from having the spaciousness that I have from living here.
Mm. It sounds like your life is more on your terms. And I don't know if I understood
Yeah.
this right, but that's the feeling that I'm
Yeah.
getting as you speak.
It most certainly is. Yeah, it's a different pace of life. It's a different quality of life. It's a different cost of living. And I have access to things in a different way that I didn't have before. So it's really a mix of a lot of things.
Yeah, wow. That's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
kind of want to put
Nowhere.
all of this together.
Sure.
I want to put all of your transformations together. Let's take a look at where you were before you became a mom, or actually when you became a mom, and then where you are right now. And you have gone through, you said that, did you say that your oldest is 11
11.
years old? So,
Hmm.
so I guess this past 11 years have been full of transformations for you. Um, what does it feel like now? If you think back to where you were 11 years ago and where you are right now, what is the first thought that comes to you?
Yeah, I'm a completely different person.
Wow. How so?
Completely different. I mean, I was just very caught up in a very like structured, pushing and forcing type of culture and society, and trying to overachieve and climb the ladder and all of that stuff. And as I've lived this journey, I've gotten to relax and soften and discover more about myself and find ways of living that are more meaningful to me. And it's
Mhm.
also changed my work, because I eventually closed my product business, and now I work more on I work one on one with people through their transformations, and just and spiritually too, just changing, kind of understanding that realm more than I used to, and using that to guide me in ways that I didn't before. I was really When I first started my product business, I was really, you know, I'm going to have a product business and I'm going to build it to millions, and I'm going to be like this up here, right? And now I'm like,
Mhm.
for what? Like, what does that
Mhm.
get you? Doesn't get you anything. And that is some people's journey, and that's fine. But the more that I've been living in this way and kind of peeling back these layers of myself, I've recognized that that's not really what I want. And so I've
Mhm.
discovered a lot more about myself, and like, who is Mary as a person? What does she want? What are her goals? What does success look like to her? All that kind of stuff.
Would you mind sharing a little bit about that? Who is Mary?
Yeah, I mean, I'm at the heart of it, I'm a guide, and I'm someone that's here to support others on their journey.
Mhm.
Really, whatever it looks like. If they're ready, willing, and able to take their next step, and if they recognize and see me as someone that can help them, right? So
Mhm.
I don't feel pushed to do that. I don't feel that I need to prove something to someone in order for them to then come work with me or have some kind of interaction with me. It's really like, I'm here for the people that see me. I will see them and I'll support them based on all of my different lived experiences. That's
How did
really,
you get into this work? How did you get into coaching?
well, from everything before, plus in my corporate work, I was doing, it's called lean transformation. So I was working within manufacturing and I was visiting manufacturing sites and helping them change the way they did operations. And there were three components. I was trained in McKinsey's method of transformation, and there was management infrastructure and operating systems, and also mindset and behaviors. And I've always been someone in all of my corporate work, did a lot of the mindset and behavior part, the teaming workshops and all of that kind of stuff. And I have a few certifications from all of those things. And as I discovered more about myself, I just realized, hey, this is actually where I work best. This is actually
Mhm.
what I'm meant to do. And honestly, I ended up pairing that with, started studying human design. And so I paired some of the, I don't know if you're familiar with it or how familiar you are with it, but I started pairing some of this work that I had done before with human design, using it as a tool and as a blueprint, and kind of I saw how much it helped me,
Mhm.
and kind of combining all that together. And I said, okay,
Mhm.
this is actually, and honestly, you can learn so much about how to run your business, how to manage your energy, like all of that kind of stuff from it. And that's all. So there's layers to how I
Mhm.
got here,
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
I
it
would
sounds like
say,
your own transformation kind of was leading you into this new path. Yeah.
yeah, in a lot of
And
ways.
that transformation, you had to go through all of the challenges to be able to be here.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Wow. I just see like I just saw like this full circle.
Yeah. Yeah, right. No, I know. It's wild.
Yeah.
That's why you asked about 11 years ago, and I could never have imagined that this is where I mean, first of all, I definitely didn't think I would be living in France. And then I didn't,
So soon, so soon.
yeah, so soon, exactly. And like, also with that, I didn't think that I would be slowing down in a way, but it's not, for me, it
Mhm.
doesn't feel like slowing down, but kind of building and creating that spaciousness to to have an
Mhm.
impact in a different way.
Yeah, it's a very different thing when your nervous system is calm and you're actually taking actions from there instead of being in a state where you're pushing forward. There is an expectation, high expectation from yourself. The world expects a lot from you, so I almost feel like it comes out of like a fight or flight, and it's a very very different place to be.
Mhm.
It's much more centered. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
What do you
And we
celebrate the most about today? Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
no, no, I was just gonna say, yeah, and the more we can have more people on this planet working from that place, the
Oh
better
yeah.
off we will all be.
Oh yeah. No, I believe that. That's a heart-centered space to be, because when
Yeah.
you honor who you are, um,
Mhm.
you are able to honor other people. And if you can't honor yourself, you can't honor anybody else.
Yep.
What do you celebrate the most about where you are today?
Mm, everything.
That's so
Everything.
good. That is so good.
Yeah.
And what do you feel the most proud um, about your journey?
The person I've allowed myself to become.
The person you allowed yourself to become. I feel like the allowed is a very important word.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So
We always have a
as we
choice,
are
right?
getting to the end, sorry, so you were saying?
We always have a choice, right? So it's a
We do have a choice, but sometimes people feel like they don't.
yeah. Yeah. And yeah. And I don't
Yeah,
dismiss.
and that's a different like conversation. But like
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes people feel like they do not have a choice. But I think that it's also important to mention that what you have gone through, um, and as I stated at the very beginning, really owning your own experience and not just to want to live up to some societal expectations. When you became a mom, and like maybe you didn't see it at that time, but I feel like you actually took a step towards to own your journey and what felt right for you.
Hmm.
And that's not an easy step to take, because there is a lot of resistance most of the time from the outside world, and there is a lot of
Yeah.
judgment. So that's a tough journey that has its own challenges. As we get to the end of the podcast, I always ask three questions, and the first question is, um, what would you, what advice would you give to your past selves who were struggling?
Keep trusting, keep listening, keep trusting.
Hmm. What is your biggest lesson that you've learned on your journey?
And honestly, to keep being me, to keep showing up
Mhm.
as myself as much as I can.
What does that really mean, to keep being you? If you could say it with one sentence.
Yeah. Like honoring myself and listening to myself and making decisions that feel aligned to me instead of kind of being run by the outside world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, what advice would you give to someone who is going through similar challenges you've been through?
I would say the more that they can, again, trust their journey and get support for themselves, whatever that looks like, whether it's through family or therapy or coaching or anything, having support systems in different ways. I think it's really important to have that as part of the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And you talked a little bit about what you're doing right now, your coaching, but I wanted to share a little bit more about that with the audience. Could you please tell us a little bit about where they can find you and what you focus on when you're helping people. You said it's really about transformation, but I just really want to hear it from you.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So all my information is at maryclavier.com. And I work with executives and business owners and individuals as well on whatever changes they're navigating. So a lot of the times in the business world, it's stuff related to their business, whether it's looking to grow it in a different way or people changing careers. I'm not a career coach, but some of that comes up as people start to find out more about themselves, right? That
Yep.
they realize
One
certain
thing
things.
shifts, everything shifts. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they realize certain things don't fit anymore.
Mhm.
And also helping people to see what's really unique to them and how things could work for them for their business. And I use different tools for that. I also do human design readings and I run workshops sometimes too. So it's all there. But yeah, the main premise through it all is transformation and working through the mind body connection. Because I really do feel that kind of what we talked about before with
Mhm.
the self, the mind, the body, the soul, connecting it all is really like the path that leads you to a lot of these things that unlock and awaken for you.
Yes, yes, I agree. I agree. And I will share all your information in the description of the podcast so the listeners will be able to find you there. Do you have any last thoughts for the listeners?
But
Anything that
just
you want to
say,
share with the audience?
I guess just, keep going because
Mhm.
sometimes it can feel really hard, but really the magic is when you push through those really hard moments, you
Mhm.
really get somewhere incredible. And it might not be something that looks a certain way on paper, but it's really part of what you need on your journey and in this lifetime, right? So
Mhm.
just keep going and trust that you're exactly where you need to be.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for those last thoughts. And also, thank you for sharing your story with us and your wisdom and the lessons learned. I really, really appreciated your vulnerability. And thank you for being on the podcast. And I look forward to connecting in the future again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's really been such a joy and a pleasure. And I love what you're doing to bring these conversations to life and really support people with where they are in their process. Because the more we talk about it, the better it is for everyone, honestly. That's how I
I
look at it.
agree. I agree. And we talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the podcast. I think challenges are a normal part of life. Becoming
Yeah.
resilient is part of going through the challenges, and transformation is also just a part of life. And that normalizing that life is not always roses gardens, but it can be good, and it can be a positive and growing and building experience. I think it's really important. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being a part of that journey. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much.